You've heard of Einstein. E equals mc squared, wild hair, tongue sticking out. But have you ever heard of Mileva Marić? She was Albert Einstein's first wife. And depending on who you ask, she might have been a muse, a collaborator, or maybe even a crucial unnamed contributor to the theory of relativity. Today, we're unpacking one of history's often whispered questions. Is it possible that the genius associated with Albert Einstein was a result of collaboration? It certainly seems plausible, but is it true? And if it is, why don't we know anything about Mileva? Stick around, because this story includes a Nobel Prize, a daughter lost to history, a son lost to mental illness, and a woman who might have shaped the world but never signed her name to it. We'll show you the evidence, the facts. Then you decide and drop your take in the comments. His theory, her mind. Mileva Marić was born in 1875 in Serbia. She had a limp from childhood illness, a brilliant mind, and though quiet and soft-spoken, she was not one to be bound by societal expectations. One of the first women to study physics and mathematics at the prestigious Zurich Polytechnic. She was the only woman in Einstein's class. But this is starting to sound like the backstory for an academic rom-com. An enthusiastic but brilliant dreamer meets a sweet, quiet, and just as brilliant girl who is content to sit back and let him pretend he is the know-it-all. She and Albert Einstein definitely connected, and not just romantically, but intellectually. They studied together, solved the equations together, and maybe, just maybe, invented the future of physics together. But their love story wasn't all equations and admiration. Something shifted, and when it did, so did history. The letters exchanged between the two are full of warmth and equations. Einstein wrote things like, "How happy and proud I will be when we together have brought our work on relative motion to a victorious conclusion." Kind of romantic, I guess. In 1905, Einstein published 4 revolutionary papers on the photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, special relativity, and mass energy equivalence, E equals mc squared. It reshaped science and changed the way we see the universe. And Mileva, she was there, checking his math, talking through the ideas, like a quiet and welcome ghost in the margins of physics. Some see those letters and say, "See, proof she contributed." Others say she was just being supportive and he being generous in admiration. The truth might be somewhere in between. But confidence in any real understanding is lost under the weight of history and the things we can't substantiate. If Mileva was quietly contributing to the theory of relativity, why didn't she end up in the textbooks? Well, that's where things get murky. Despite her undeniable brilliance, Mileva never received her degree from Zurich Polytechnic. Her final exams went poorly. She was pregnant, possibly depressed, likely facing the ongoing pressures of being a woman in a man's world. In 1902, before the couple were married, Mileva gave birth to a daughter, the Cyril. The baby's fate is still a mystery. The last letter that mentions her stated she had scarlet fever. No birth or death certificate has ever been found. She may have died. She may have been given up for adoption. Either way, she disappeared, just like Mileva's mathematical accomplishments. Mileva married Albert in 1903, and in 1904 and 1910, they had 2 sons, Hans Albert and Edward. Hans Albert grew up to become a respected hydraulic engineer. Albert was reportedly unimpressed by that choice. More practical than revolutionary, I guess. Edward was sensitive, brilliant, and artistic. He idolized Freud and planned to be a psychiatrist. But at age 20, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Mileva watched over him at home as long as she could. Eventually, she had to place him in an institution. She sold off the properties purchased with Einstein's Nobel Prize money to afford his care. That money, by the way, had been promised to her in their 1919 divorce settlement. Raising two boys, one with severe mental illness, without public acclaim or private wealth, it adds another layer to the question of what Mileva might have done had life offered different variables. By 1914, Albert had moved to Berlin without Mileva. Their marriage crumbled, and so did Mileva's world. She took on boarders, gave private lessons in math and music. You know, typical backup plans for a theoretical physicist. She managed Edward's care, all while fading from the public record. Einstein continued publishing, sure, but many note that his greatest breakthroughs were already behind him, along with his hairline. Was Mileva the co-author of his clarity, the anchor to his wild genius? Or is that just romantic revisionism? Some argue that her silence, her failure to claim any credit, proves she wasn't involved. Others say it proves she didn't want the limelight. Or worse, she feared that any claim of her true contributions would never be believed. So, what do we do with Mileva Marić? She didn't get a diploma. Her name isn't on any scientific paper. She lost her daughter. But she may have helped change the world, and chose, or was forced, to do so from the shadows. Maybe she really was the uncredited partner behind his brilliance. Maybe she is his sounding board. Maybe she was the unnoticed but steady gravity that held everything together until it didn't. Some say she walked away. Others say she was erased. But what if neither is the full truth? So, here's an ounce. Sometimes the people who change the world don't wear lab coats, win prizes, or receive any acclaim. Sometimes they're women who vanish from the record, raising children, solving the seemingly unsolvable equations of life in the background, and selling furniture to pay for hospital stays. If Einstein has taught us anything, it's that everything is relative. And maybe that includes genius. And that's it, an ounce, submitted for your consideration. If you like this episode, give it a share, a like, or just mention it during your next awkward silence in an elevator. Subscribe for more overlooked stories, untold truths, and genius that doesn't always look like you'd expect. And I'm betting these other videos are something you'll enjoy more than you'd expect. Check them out. Thanks.